All right, everyone, let's get started. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the Compass Point Roundtable. Uh, that is Compass Point Roundtable Discussion. This is the second part of the VWBPE 2021 Special Reconnaissance Mission with Linden Lab. Tizzy, there is space. You just got to click on one of the boxes. Not the one with the reserve sign, though. I'm Lorraine Mockford and LV Lustre across the metaverse, and I'll be the moderator for today's discussion. With us today from Linden Lab are Patch Linden, VP of Product Operations, Brett Linden, VP of Marketing, Grumpity, VP of Product, who will be arriving shortly, and Madori Linden, Product Specialist, Land Operations. If you would like to know a little bit more about our invited speakers. Awesome, that's great, Brett, thank you. There is the link to their bios on the VWBPE website. The Compass Point Roundtable discussion format looks at 4 key Compass Point questions. Go around the world, right? The Compass Point questions. You can see the questions at those various cardinal points on big boards here in this space. We're going to take these in turn with our guests answering one question at a time or responding to one question at a time. There's about 12 minutes for each question, including time for input from the audience or follow-up from me. Please post questions in chat if you have any. Mark them with a Q. Put them in chat and mark them with a Q. We will do our best to get to these. Transcription is available, so do feel free to ask in chat when there is time, and I'll call on you if there's time to ask a question in voice, okay? Remember, there will be another special reconnaissance mission tomorrow. Here again in the quadrivium space, we're going to have quadrivium number 3, and we'll have a couple more. Some of our Linden Lab friends will be back to join us there. So we'll continue to ask questions, and we're going to continue that discussion. We felt that this was a great way to really get at some of the ideas that are being expressed. Starting with the interview yesterday with Phelan and Patch. So please stay positively focused. There is so much we can learn by taking an appreciative inquiry approach, building upon what is working, and finding our path forward. This is a reconnaissance mission, after all. So let's get started. We're going to start with the East, which is our exciting question. So what makes you excited? So, our Linden friends, what is Linden Lab excited about that will be of interest to educators and the VWBPE community members? Who wants to start?
Well, I think the thing that excites me the most, is probably the prospects of the new energy that our new ownership is putting into the platform, and the investment in which they're going to bring to the table for us to be able to take Second Life levels and heights that we probably haven't seen. Right, Grumpity, do you want to add something to that?
There's Grumpity. Hi, Grumpity.
Hi, I'm so sorry I had to be late. I ran as fast as I could. I am super excited that we have finally completed the Uplift project. We've been working on optimizing how we use AWS, and there's a lot of work that will allow us to make new offerings and make better use of the cloud technology as we move forward. AWS is cloud hosting, which we have fully migrated the Second Life infrastructure to. It was a project that spanned several years and a lot of engineering effort. And it allows us to really ensure the longevity of Second Life using the best platforms that are available to focus our efforts on services that we provide and on running Second Life better.
Thank you. Anyone else want to tackle that question? What are you excited about?
I'll jump in. There's probably several things. I want to actually just jump back to what Patch said. I, like Patch and others, am really excited about the energy inside the company coming from the very, very top. It's just a lot of new direction and energies and energy in terms of things we're going to be focusing on. I know we'll talk about that over this hour, a little bit of things to expect, but it's just very, very nice, and it kind of frames and informs, what's important. I think, Patch, I don't want to get it wrong, but you said something yesterday about, the way that that Brad, one of the new owners, looks at things, and it's essentially very SL customer and community centric in a way that is really nice to hear. So basically, will it make the community happy? I'm probably paraphrasing terribly, but more or less, what we do going to make Second Life better? Is what we do going to make the community happy? That is such a great place to start from, when you think about every single thing that you put resources behind, what you do. So I'll start with that. I don't know, Patch or Grumpy, if you want to weigh in on some other specific initiatives that are excited about. Maybe I'll throw in one more before tossing it to somebody else. Just to call out one that I'm excited about is live video streaming support. So this came out sometime mid last year, and of course I'm in marketing. So for me, I think about, well, what does that do for us in terms of growth opportunities and partnership opportunities, just making a better experience for people that use Second Life for an enterprise or maybe an education use. And so now you can do YouTube Live and I think some other live video streaming support to bring, essentially like video experiences, not just on demand as has been the case for some time, but live. And so we did they're not in the education space, but certainly it's applicable. We did two big events, one of which was just last month with partners. Last year, we did Adult Swim, which is the cable sort of animation channel, and they did a world premiere event using live video of episodes that had never been aired elsewhere. And of course, the creators and the actors associated with the show were there in the same virtual space, enjoying and reacting in real time with the audience, which was just fun. And then we did something with the NFL Alumni Association, and they did sort of like an esports, sort of like a Super Bowl-like event, and we did a virtual halftime show, and that was then beamed in-world and also beamed out-world outside of SL. So, I think there's a lot of implications of that.
Yeah,
So that
Prof. Dan had a good sort of follow-up question from that, and one that I've been thinking about as well. So everyone nearby can watch and see the same thing together, like at the same time.
yeah, and so you could have, I mean, again, the possibilities are endless. Any way you'd want to merge the two, physical world and the virtual together, but you could have a classroom video, interacting with a live stream interacting with the virtual audience as well. Again, you could just think of all the different applications, but I love that we have that now. And I think we'll do some more partnerships. Again, in my role and what I do here, we have a lot of different verticals or types of industry to deal with. Education is just one, but like in the entertainment space, for example, the obvious math and see how bringing movie-like or TV-like experience could be kind of interesting, especially when you can't go to a movie theater as safely in some areas because of the pandemic. Shared social experience, kind of people are missing that socialization while you enjoy something together, which of course we can do in Second Life.
That is very true. Madori, did you want to add anything to this before we move on to the next question?
Well, oddly enough, I think Second Life has really come into its own with the experience of a pandemic. We are now the kind of the gold standard in safe social distancing as a community. We've already been doing that, and so I think that the new ownership in this space has been very fortuitous for Second Life. So that's what I'm excited about, is that it's grown up and become part of the experience.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you very much for that. So let's move on to our next question. And this is the one that's a little bit worrisome. So we're going to go to the West and ask, what is the greatest concern about education in virtual environments like Second Life right now?
I feel like safety tends to be on the forefront of a lot of educators' minds. And we have a lot of controls and capabilities that we offer and educators can put in place to help ensure safe usage of Second Life for users that they could potentially, things like Reg API is probably first and foremost on my mind in the various tool sets that are available. It allows you to create a direct and customized onboarding experience to bring people into Second Life. You can do things like give people custom name accounts, so that it's very easy to identify them as being part of your group. Oh, did I break up? Everything okay?
Yes, you did. Yes.
Okay. All right.
But I think we got it.
Got it. All right. And that also allows you to do things like limit the accounts that you're bringing into Second Life specifically to like your estate that your region's in, so that those users may not be able to go out and wander the larger grid, as it were. You can do things like limit maturity ratings and limit the selection of avatars they have access to. There's a lot of flexibility in that, and what it gives you kind of on the forefront. That's one of the big ones, and safety, trust in general coming into Second Life.
Yeah, certainly that was always my big concern when I was bringing students in. Anyone else want to hop in on that? What do you think are the greatest concerns about education in virtual environments?
I'll make a comment. It sort of answers the question, so I'll make it short. But basically, just thinking about, we've had a lot of conversations about Zoom fatigue, with education, because obviously so many educators have quickly, scrambled with the pandemic, and the idea of bringing a video camera into, especially if it's a K through 12 or a minor, into their home, and some arguably is a privacy invasion, or perceived to be problematic for some parents. It's just a testy issue. So I think Second Life for that has been really a great thing in the sense that it's less intrusive for that. I don't know if that answers your question per se, but just something to think about as far as where we've seen some traction in terms of education having an advantage, versus some of the other video-based platforms.
Yes, absolutely. And we have a quadrivium discussion later on today, and the question that's being addressed is about some of the ethical concerns that we have right now, especially with all the proliferation of tools. And I see a question from Sidearm. Site asks, will there be a renewed push with allocated staff support for growth in community gateways featuring direct SL registration? I think that follows from this idea about, some of the concerns that we have.
So we've frequently talked about Teen Grid internally. We believe that the way that Reg API is structured today, it's possible for individual communities to bring in new people with controls in place. Ultimately, Teen Grid had a lot of issues, a lot of them around enforcement. Some things are just impossible in Second Life in that way. A lot of them about avatars. At the same time, the world has evolved a lot, and how we think about teenagers in virtual worlds has changed a lot. They've had a lot more exposure and familiarity with them. I think what really sets Second Life aside in terms of educational experiences is that being in SL creates a sense of presence in a way that's very different from sitting in front of a static Zoom screen. At the same time, we know that a lot of kids are really wary of turning on their cameras, which allows other people to look at them and inspect the pimple on their forehead, for example, or the pimple they fear they might have on their forehead. But in SL, there's both a sense of presence and being in a place together with people and sharing an experience, but also this protection of private personal space and a way to express yourself, which is super important, but also protect yourself.
Yes, indeed. There's some great questions here, and I'm not ignoring them, folks, but I think we'll get to them as we go along.
I did want to address that question,
yes.
actually, before we go to the next. There's actually a new gateway that started today, a new community gateway. They are Reg API capable. They'll have that set up shortly, and they're ready to go. They have the portal set up for it, and they are ready to accept new users, and they have some kind of innovative ideas for it. So, we might see a push maybe in the destination guide or something. I'm going to see if we can get something going on that. But in answer to that, we have the support to do it, and we're ready for more. So the Reg API is part of that.
That is an absolutely fascinating. I think it's a fascinating solution to the problem, right? So, like the Teen Grid is not necessarily the be all and end all, and having ways to make safe spaces for everyone within this environment, probably the great suggestions. So, we're seeing some of the other questions because we have educators here. So, some of the things that are worrisome for them are, of course, making it easier. And for people to get to onboard, how can we make that easier? And as Day says, there's another point is that so many schools and kids are using Chromebooks now, and they just don't have the capability to run something like Second Life. So, thoughts about that?
Yeah, we hear you, and we internally are working on figuring out a partnership or a solution to address that. Technically, Second Life is not trivial to bring to lower end systems, and Chromebooks in particular are very specific technology. But we are internally, again, quite excited about some of the possibilities we're looking at that would enable us to bring SL to Chromebooks and to mobile devices as well. That said, I don't believe that it's realistic to have a full educational experience on a mobile device like a phone. But anything with a keyboard, like a Chromebook, even that my kindergartner is using, would be able to approximate very well a full-fledged Second Life experience, allow educators to do a lot more.
Yes, it's sort of a light version, right? That would be marvelous to have that. Tim Bailey's bringing up the Lumina, right? That would be something like that would be easier. We don't need everything.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to be able to
the
run it.
Lumia viewer, unfortunately, is no longer supported.
I know, but something light like that might be enough. As people are mentioning in the chat, I have many of us have fairly high-end machines, and I couldn't imagine going back to trying to run Second Life on something that wasn't. Not as it stands right now, right? So, yeah, this is great. Okay, let's move on then to our next question. Now we're going to the north, and we're going to look at our known strengths now over in the north. And the question is, how can educators and the VWBPE community work with Linden Lab in creating and supporting vibrant and engaging learning environments? So what can we do to work with you folks to make it work? The moles want coffee.
My 2 cents in here. I'm pretty open to people reaching out to me because I'm kind of the mind that that we're Lindens because of our residents. so I try not to ignore any comment that I get, or and it happens because I do receive a few throughout the course of the day, but suggestions, I want to hear what people want. I want to see that input. I don't know that we can put everything to use or implement everything that comes across, but this is the land that residents built, so that'd be kind of cool to see what people want, to see what the overwhelming focus is on education, and see what we can do to drive towards that goal, to make every educator happy. I don't know if that's possible, but at least work towards it. Something that we can do on our end that's within our capabilities, and something that's feasible with the platform that we have.
Well,
Just
that sounds absolutely marvelous, and I see a lot of people offering coffee.
They probably want me to have everything directed to me now instead of it.
Notice your colleagues are quiet.
but I don't mind, I mean, that's part of what I feel is my responsibility here, keeping up with the ideas that I see come my way. I do see some really great stuff that I would love to do, but I'm not a coder. I don't do those kinds of things, but I definitely like seeing what ideas people have.
Well, these people have ideas. Oh, don't worry about that. Lots of ideas. And they have coffee and chocolate and ice cream. So, I mean, that's all great. And as Zinnia says...
Had me at chocolate.
Yeah. And Zinnia has superpowers, and she's teaching us all how to have superpowers. So there we go.
I see a comment that Buffy made about more promotion on the website, so I'll jump in. Obviously, I work in the marketing team, so my sort of contribution to this is in that paradigm. But I am extremely open to hearing and learning about success stories, case studies, what people are up to in SL, especially if it's novel and different and interesting, so that I can start to use that in a way that promotes and draws attention to it. So I think it's mutually beneficial for us. And for the education community as well, to find these success stories or innovative uses of Second Life and get the word out. So, for example, we do work, in terms of public relations outreach, to pitch story ideas. So that assumes that I know, there's so much going on in SL. I don't know every nook and cranny of it, but getting on my radar would help so that I can sort of assemble those examples, and sometimes point the media to people for interview requests, because we get trend stories about this phenomenon in Second Life or this development or whatever. So that would be very, very helpful. I'm very happy. And then on the website, I know it's the tried and true, but we do have the usual promo avenues such as the destination guide and areas that we can feature, like for example on the login page of the Second Life viewer. So we have education, competing with other interests and community for that real estate, but there's a dedicated nonprofits and education section that we absolutely want to make sure is representing correctly, the community. But I'm very open. If anybody wants to reach out to me and just give me a shout out about what you're up to and thinking that you might be open to talk to the media to sort of celebrate what you're working on, you shoot me an email. It's editor, and I'll put it in chat, but editor@lindenlab.com.
That would be great. Thank you so much. Tizzy put a great comment in here about a practice-based PhD that was rooted in Second Life creativity that she's just finished. There are so many people here in this space right this very minute who have done either their graduate work in Second Life, and they've done their thesis about using virtual environments for teaching and learning. I think it would be great to celebrate that.
Yeah, if I don't know about something, just it needs to get on my radar. So yeah, I'd love to learn more about that and just anything else that people think is worth sharing. So yeah, somebody asked a question about social media, and the short answer is yes, we have a strategy on social media. I don't know if you want me to elaborate on that, but we are active. What I'll say is, and Strawberry, if you guys know Strawberry Linden, formerly Strawberry Sing in the community, is our social media lead. So I don't want to steal her thunder, but I will say I am so happy that she has upped our game considerably, since we started the Linden last year and a half or so. But we're active across all social platforms. The amount of original content and curated content that we publish to tell the stories of Second Life is up like tenfold, and that's not an exaggeration from even just a year prior. We have original video fly-throughs, industry and or creator profile video stories. Every week there's at least one video. We have the Lab Gab story. By the way, speaking of opportunities, Lab Gab is our sort of talk show. And so now that I think about it, hello, there has not been an educator on there yet. So we would love to have some form of, well, no, that's not true. We have had one or two, but we haven't had many educators on there. So that could be something that we could put the spotlight on as well. So that's a streaming initiative. We've got an influencer outreach program. So there are, the people that are have high follower counts, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it, on video streaming, socials. There's some specific relationships we built. The most notable of which, definitely not in the education field, but in terms of large follower count and influence, Carmen King on YouTube, kind of a quirky style, but we worked with her, and that's good because a lot of the streamers are very, they work on multiple platforms. So, like in the case of Carmen King, she's active on The Sims and IMVU and some of the others, and so she's got a large following. And then if we can sort of introduce and bridge them over into Second Life, all the better. So there's a lot going on in terms of proactive outreach, curated content to celebrate and amplify what's out there, and then of course our own original content as well. So yeah, there's a lot going on and more to do. It's really important actually for when we look at the numbers of what has an impact in growing Second Life for discovery. There's all the traditional marketing techniques like paid advertising and organic initiatives and so forth, but social is very, very impactful. And so we are investing more in that this year.
Yeah, so Nadoka is saying that it would be nice. I feel that one of the less recognized parts of SL Populous is the educator community, especially those involved in installations, such as the virtual museums and that sort, and certainly the librarians. And I actually live on the mainland down the street from a lovely art exhibit featuring the work of Alphonse Mucha. I love how people say that. I live on the mainland. Thank you for that. Does anyone else want to pop in while we're talking about how can educators WB work with Linden Lab? One of the comments that did come up from Galen, and Galen and I talked about it yesterday, is there used to be something called Sloodle, which was a mashup between Second Life and Moodle, which is a learning management system that many of us use in our institution. So then it kind of went by the wayside, and it would be lovely to see something like that again. Something that could work with the learning management systems, or many learning management systems will have like a button you can push and you can just set up a Zoom meeting or set up this meeting. It would be nice if you could have that integration between a virtual world and your learning management system. But I don't know where that can be. Like Madori, not a coder, just interested.
That sounds very interesting. I'd be curious to see what is the most prevalent learning management system that you would want to use, because every integration
Open source
is going
would
to
be
be a special
Moodle, and then there's
snow.
Canvas and probably Brightspace. They probably go in that order. Yeah, all of them. No failing, not all of them. But why not, So
I think you're illustrating well the difficulty of integrating with a single learning management system here.
Yeah.
I wanted to give a shout out to another piece that was done pretty recently by the team. I was hoping Patch would speak to it a little bit, but we do have some turnkey spaces for educators that are available. I heard Madori offers tours to anybody who's interested, and they're also highlighted on our website. Brett, could you drop a link to it, please?
That sounds really good. And there's Galen following up saying just, more of a plug-in that could integrate with HTMP5 web players, something like that. I don't know. But it would be nice. And then the other one that's been coming up a lot today, because Friday is Language Learning Day, in particular, is translation tools, and that would be great. We have ideas. Alrighty, let's move on then to our last question. And for this, we go to the south. And we are looking at what's currently going on, right? So what can educators and the VWBPE look forward to in the next few years? What's coming down the pipe?
I like your long view. I appreciate that. We tried to take a long view as well. We've touched on a lot of this already, I think. But exploring various streaming options that will enable us to run SL on Chromebooks and mobile devices and more systems in general, and older hardware as well as exploring the opportunities that moving to the cloud offers us. For example, a campus, especially this fits well with the education model. If the university in Antwerp has a campus in Second Life, they're practically guaranteed that everybody who's accessing it is going to benefit from having all of those servers running in the European data center in AWS instead of from the United States. So putting your servers closer to where your regions are would be a benefit too. Those are just a couple that I'm very excited about, but also figuring out a way to make the onboarding simpler, both in terms of educators bringing in their students and for students coming in and their first few minutes or hours in Second Life.
That would be so awesome. And as Zinnia says, many of her students live in very remote areas with tech barriers. And so all of these advances of access will be. I have the same issues. And, I think many of us do. And as Chris Looks pointed out that earlier today, those of us that teach in community colleges, we often have students who don't have the resources to have high-end support them now. Not just tech barriers, other types of digital divides that are there.
Absolutely. And one of the things I look forward to that's got nothing to do with us personally is improving internet speed and quality overall in the world. It will certainly benefit us.
Yes, I've noticed a little uptake in that. That's one of the things I think is coming out of the pandemic. We've all realized how dependent we are on internet and that it needs to be better. Just even to book your vaccination. How do you do that if you don't have the internet? So does anyone else want to jump in on this question to talk about where we can go, what we can look forward to in the future?
Yeah, I think even probably as a continuation of what I mentioned yesterday, and what Grumpity mentioned about the new user experience is simplifying the avatar customization process. We can even build custom avatars for the educational community, and we are going to be bringing out another set of new avatars at some point in the near future. So any feedback for what the community might be looking for that would help with that experience would certainly be welcome. And again from yesterday, maintaining our pricing at its reduced state, the $99 region fee at that discounted level, I think had really good response. and I want to continue that through this year for sure, and hopefully into the future even.
Very good news indeed. We have a good question from Sidearm, who asks, would the streaming solution use WorldStream or similar protocol technology? Again, I'm a user, not a techie, so someone else can answer that. What wonderful comments everyone is making. This is so great.
I don't see my colleagues jumping in, so I'll just mention regarding a specific technology. I don't think we're in a place to say or comment on which one we would use, but that's one that's mentioned. There's several that are out there in this space, some announced, some unannounced. So, the exploratory process is underway to see which is the best fit. But yeah, so we can't comment on which one we would go with. But it's very intriguing that there's been a lot of advancements just in the last calendar year on this very point. So obviously we're looking at it.
There's a really good point from Prof. Dan again about students saying that they would like to see more choice for African American avatars and just diversity of avatars overall. I've seen them increase already, but I think we need to have more, right? Getting lots of comments back on that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way we would say anything but agree with that, of course. And as new, I mean, that's important and certainly noted.
Our hope
There.
is to
Sorry.
limit perhaps the starter avatars we offer and instead make it easier for students to customize their avatars to whatever they want to see them as, and as much of a scale as possible, but without perhaps having to spend at least 30 days in Second Life before figuring out how to do.
That would be great. Yeah. Here's Beth is bringing Pookie's question forward that I missed. She asked earlier if all the new management peeps have their own avatars, and are they trying out the new user experience themselves? When do we expect Brad to come wandering by?
I know Brad had quite a time exploring the new user experience and customizing his avatar. And I hear something about his persistence with a wolf tattoo that really made him happy and completed the experience.
Can I share a story too on that with Brad, just to speak to his interest in Second Life and wanting to understand from the trenches what it's like as a user, not just as an executive. So I don't want to speak out of order, but like just as a sort of snapshot to his the way he thinks about things is when he came into Second Life, he was really adamant about things like customizing the avatar from a fresh eye perspective. In other words, ultimately, he looked for guidance and so forth, but he went through the rough patches, of what it's like to go through and getting your avatar up and running, and really wanted to understand from a customer-centric point of view where the friction is in that has been pretty well documented. So I thought that was really good. In other words, don't give me white glove treatment. Let me see what it's like. And so I think that's really an important and powerful thing to have somebody in that place experience it, just like you or I or any of us, before, in our case, before we were Lindens as average Second Life users and for the general public. So he has a very real understanding, not a filtered understanding of the friction points that I think we all benefit from improving. So that was just a little snapshot of something I think hopefully people appreciate.
That is so great, and it makes me really happy to hear that. And someday I'll tell you the story about when I was working as a mentor and M. Linden showed up when there was chaos on the on the site, but I'm not going into it now. Anyhow, Phelan asked a question. He missed the very beginning, and so he wanted to know a little bit more about updates to the Reg API for those of us that have already existing community gateways like Virtual Ability and Rockcliffe. That's probably you,
I
Grumpity.
think sure. I'm not sure what updates to Reg API in particular are of interest. We can certainly talk about it with the communities that are interested in it. I would encourage you to send the feature request to Madori, and then she will nudge me and ping me and poke me, and we'll try to work out what features would be most beneficial.
That's great. Thank you very much. And we are now at 5 minutes away from the end. Do our Linden guests have any final comments for us? Remember, we're meeting again tomorrow. Go ahead.
Well, so one of the things that I do kind of as an aside to what my my job entails here is I try to keep abreast of all the grants and things that I see that are out there for educators, because if somebody comes to me and they say, I'm just really struggling with price, or I'm a graduate student and I'm working towards my PhD, I like to do creative problem solving, and we give the discount. But there are lots of grants, and I know I haven't made it completely through the new rescue plan, but I know on the CARES Act in July, there were a lot of grants that were set up for education technology. So I try to keep abreast of that. But if somebody knows of something that comes up, certainly send me an IM, an email, Madori at Linden Lab. Just let me know that you heard something that's out there, so that I can pass it along to educators that reach out to me. I do get a lot of comments and questions from other countries, so that may not always apply, but certainly here in the US with those types of things, it's meaningful to somebody out there. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Thank you. That is actually really helpful. And sometimes grants are applicable they're not just for the US. It all depends on who the sponsoring agency is. So it might be nice to have that information somewhere. Anyone else?
I'll throw in something, and maybe it'll be elaborated on more tomorrow. But basically, just thinking about, what can we look forward to in the coming year, et cetera. So not specific to the educator community, but overall to the Second Life community is with what we started off saying was that, the new owners, new energy, et cetera. And so with marketing as well, again, the team that I'm on, there's a lot of efforts to sort of focus, especially in the second half of the year, on things that sort of, for lack of a better way of putting it, re-emerge Second Life into the mainstream as a seasoned platform. We're in our 18th year this year, celebrating SL18B around the corner. It's something where we want to make sure that people know that we're here, and all the great communities and what's up. And we've had good numbers this last year. Strangely, because of the pandemic, as horrible as it is, for Second Life, a lot of numbers and stuff are up because of that, for obvious reasons. And so there's some efforts going underway for particularly the second half of the year. Excuse me. Sorry. That will help us, I think, get some mind share in the media and amongst consumers. Just as a teaser for that, our first commercial, or broadcast quality commercial, the website will be updated, the homepage and some of the marketing components. We recently unveiled, a refresh of our brand, of our logo. So people have noted that. So there's just some dusting off that's happening and some new energy that's being put into that, new partnerships. We've already had a few that have debuted, but there's several more in the works. And I'll leave it at that for now, but let's just say we're not being complacent. We're not sitting back. There's a lot proactively happening that we'll see the results of really about mid-year or so.
And I want to echo and add on to what Brett is saying. To us internally, during this past year, it has been very energizing and rewarding that what we work on is a world where people find comfort and safety and engagement in a time when the world is so uncomfortable. And it really shows us that what we've been working on and what we're building has so much value to the world, and we'd like everyone who needs a little second life in their life.
Oh, I like that. Everyone needs a little second life. That's great. Thank you so much. And there was this at the end here, there's been some discussion in the chat about griefers and griefing, but let's hold on to that until tomorrow. So with that, I would like to thank you all. This has been a fascinating exploration of some of the issues facing the VWBPE community from the perspective of Linden Lab. We look forward to continuing to move forward together. Please join us tomorrow, Saturday, the 20th of March at 3 p.m. here in the Quadrivium space as we continue the reconnaissance of virtual world education and community building upon our discussions and interviews over the conference. So session 3 of our special reconnaissance mission with Linden Lab is a quadrivium. And it's a quadrivium format, and we're going to have our guests Brett Linden and Grumpity Linden. So we hope to see you there, and thank you all very, very much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Look at all the yahoos and woos. I think we... Oh yeah, Slayton says we need more bears, and I agree. And I believe next, coming up, is a moonwalk at the social. So away you go.